The sky above Earth was silent for years, with no sign of the terror that was about to descend. But that silence shattered when the Xerax fleet appeared, cloaked and invisible to Earth's defenses. Humanity had no idea what was coming, but the galaxy's most technologically advanced species, the Xerax, had set their sights on Earth. The Xerax had conquered planets across the stars, enslaving countless species. To them, Earth seemed weak and primitive, a world filled with nothing more than helpless creatures who could be controlled with ease. They were wrong. The Xerax fleet ascended from the darkness, its massive ships cutting through the stars like shadows. The sleek alien warships, glowing with cold blue light, were equipped with the most advanced technology imaginable. They had cloaking devices that made them invisible to Earth's radar, and weapons that could decimate entire cities with a single blast. The invasion was swift and merciless. The first strike hit a major city, New York. The city that had once been the heart of human progress, now reduced to a crumbling ruin. The first blast came without warning, tearing apart buildings in an instant. People screamed, running in panic as the skies above rained destruction. The Xerax had no need for subtlety. Their overwhelming power was their weapon. The city fell within minutes, a symbol of humanity's vulnerability. As the dust settled and the fires burned, the Xerax I commander, Zereth, watched from his command center aboard the flagship. He was a cold, calculating presence. No emotions, no mercy, only logic. In his mind, Earth would be no more in a matter of days. The humans, with their outdated weapons and defenses, stood no chance against the might of the Xerax Empire. To Zereth, this was not a battle. It was a mere formality. But among the chaos, there was hope. A group of human resistance fighters led by Jack, a former soldier turned reluctant hero, was caught in the middle of the invasion. Jack was tall, rugged, and unyielding. His sharp eyes betrayed years of experience in combat. His battle-hardened demeanor made him a natural leader, and he had refused to back down when the Xerax came. Jack had seen the world fall apart before his eyes, but he refused to let it happen again. He had a plan, one that relied not on advanced technology, but on human ingenuity and determination. Jack and his team were hiding in the ruins of New York when they were ambushed by alien robots. These were no ordinary machines. These were the Xerax's latest creations, humanoid drones built for battle. They moved with precision, their glowing red eyes scanning the area for any signs of life. As they closed in on Jack's team, the resistance fighters scrambled to fight back. But it was hopeless. The robots were too advanced, and the humans were outmatched. In a moment of panic, with all hope fading, Jack's mind raced. He remembered the device he had stashed in his pack, a human-made cloaking device, one that had taken months of planning and risk to develop. Jack quickly activated it, and in an instant, the team vanished from sight. The Xerax robots searched the area, but they couldn't see the humans. It was their only chance to escape. As the team made their way through the ruins of the city, the weight of what had just happened hit Jack. The city was gone, millions were dead, and their enemy was far stronger than they had ever imagined. But there was no time to mourn. They had to keep moving. Jack's mind was already focused on the next step, that Xerax weren't going to win this war so easily. Back in space, Zereth watched his victory unfold on the holographic displays. He knew Earth's defenses were primitive, and their military had no chance. His fleet, armed with powerful orbital bombardment cannons, had already begun targeting human cities across the globe. Earth was a ticking time bomb, and the countdown to humanity's extinction had already begun. Zereth, however, had underestimated one thing. Humans weren't as weak as he thought. On the ground, Jack and his team gathered in a hidden underground bunker, surrounded by stolen Xerax technology. They had cloaking devices, energy weapons, and even alien drones at their disposal. It wasn't enough to defeat the Xerax, but it was enough to fight back. Jack's team wasn't just a group of soldiers. They were survivors, and survivors had something the HFY didn't: the will to fight. Jack looked at his team, each one of them determined, their eyes burning with the same fire. They were up against an enemy that had conquered the galaxy, and they knew the odds were slim. But Jack had always been a fighter. He had never believed in backing down, no matter the size of the enemy. And now, he was leading a group of fighters who believed the same. "We've got one shot," Jack said, his voice steady and determined. "We fight like hell. We fight for Earth, for our homes, for our people. We may not have the power they have, but we have something they don't." One of the soldiers spoke up, his voice shaking. "But how are we supposed to stop them, Jack? Their technology is light years ahead of ours. We're just human." Jack's expression hardened. "Exactly. We're just human, and that's our greatest weapon." As Jack's words echoed in the bunker, they gave the soldiers something they hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Humanity had been pushed to the brink of extinction, but they weren't giving up without a fight. They had faced death before, and they would face it again. The HFY may have had the most advanced weapons, but the humans had something far stronger: a spirit that refused to die. Meanwhile, Xerath's fleet was already making its final preparations for the assault. The HFY's commander believed that the final victory was only days away. He had already ordered the orbital bombardments to begin targeting the remaining human cities. He thought he had won. He thought Earth's fate was sealed. But what Xerath didn't know was that Jack and his team were already planning a counterattack. They weren't about to let Earth fall without a fight. In the coming days, Jack and his team would use their stolen technology to launch a series of surprise strikes against the HFY's fleet. They wouldn't be able to take on the entire fleet, but they didn't need to. They needed to strike at the heart of the invasion, to show the HFY that humans weren't as weak as they thought. They needed to make their mark. The battle for Earth was just beginning. The resistance fighters, including Jack and his team, had barely escaped the first ambush, but they were far from safe. The eerie quiet of their hideout gave way to a renewed sense of urgency as they huddled together, strategizing their next move. Jack's mind raced. They had to act fast, but they couldn't afford any mistakes. The HFYs were relentless, and they would soon regroup and hunt down every last human. But the longer they waited, the stronger the invaders would become. It was time for a counterattack, and Jack had a plan. Their first target was a supply ship, a colossal HFY vessel filled with weapons, supplies, and critical technology. The ship hovered just outside the atmosphere, barely visible against the night sky. Jack and his team, using their stolen cloaking devices, would sneak on board and strike at the heart of the invaders' infrastructure. They didn't have many resources, but they had one advantage: the ability to strike quickly, silently, and without warning. The humans' infiltration was nothing short of a miracle. The cloaking devices made them nearly invisible to the HFY's sensors. With each careful step, they moved deeper into the enemy ship, past towering walls of metal and rows of alien equipment. The ship hummed with the alien language, distant voices communicating in a language too complex for humans to understand. But Jack's focus was unshakable. They had one goal: destroy everything that could help the HFYs. Jack's team split into pairs to cover more ground. They moved swiftly, planting explosives on key parts of the ship's power grid. Every step brought them closer to their target: an alien drone that could turn the tide of the battle in their favor. The team had gathered intel about the drone's advanced capabilities, and if they could hack into it, they might be able to turn it against the invaders. As they reached the control room, the tension in the air thickened. The sound of alien voices grew louder, signaling that they were close to the drone's command center. Jack knew they had to act fast. Without hesitation, he and Bonner, his best friend and fellow soldier, moved forward. Bonner was a giant of a man, with a heart as fierce as his build. They had been through countless battles together, but this mission felt different. This was the turning point, the moment where they could change the course of the war. Jack and Bonner worked together to hack into the drone's control systems. It was no easy task. The alien code was foreign and complex, but Jack's sharp mind, paired with Bonner's determination, made them a force to be reckoned with. After what felt like an eternity, the drone's systems blinked to life. They had done it. They now had control of one of the HFY's deadliest machines. The plan was simple. Use the drone to cause chaos and destroy one of the HFY's forward outposts. As they activated the drone, Jack's heart raced. It was their first real victory, and it had to be perfect. The drone, now under human control, launched into the air, its weaponry aimed at the HFY's outpost. The team watched from a distance as the drone unleashed a devastating barrage of firepower. Alien soldiers scattered, trying to fight back, but it was too late. The outpost exploded in a fiery inferno, sending shockwaves through the HFY's fleet. For a moment, the humans felt a fleeting sense of victory, but that moment quickly turned to dread when Jack turned around and saw Bonner lying on the ground, blood pooling around him. A sharp pain pierced Jack's chest as he rushed to his friend's side. Bonner had been hit during the explosion, and it was clear that his injuries were fatal. Bonner's eyes, usually full of life and laughter, were now empty. His breath came in shallow gasps as Jack held his hand. "You can't leave me, Bonner. Not now. We've come this far. You can't leave me now," Jack whispered, his voice cracking. Bonner smiled faintly, his strength fading. "It's okay, Jack. You've got this. Don't let it be for nothing. Make them pay. For all of us." With those words, Bonner's hand went limp, and the light in his eyes went out forever. Jack's heart shattered as he realized he had lost his closest friend, his brother in arms. The pain was unbearable, but it also ignited a fire inside him. Bonner's death would not be in vain. Jack vowed, with all the strength in his soul, that he would make the HFY's pay for what they had done. As Jack and his team made their retreat, the loss of Bonner weighed heavily on them. His death had given them purpose, but it also reminded them of the stakes. The HFY's were powerful, and their fight for survival was only beginning. They had caused a major setback for the invaders, but the road ahead would be long and filled with more sacrifices. Zareth, the cold and ruthless AI commander of the HFY's fleet, was not easily swayed. At first, he had watched the humans' resistance with a sense of detached curiosity. They were nothing more than an annoyance, a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of his conquest. But as reports of the human counterattack came in, Zareth's calculations began to shift. The humans were more resourceful than he had anticipated. Their ability to strike back so quickly, using tactics that were unpredictable and unorthodox, caught him off guard. Zareth's frustration grew. He had never considered the possibility that Earth's inhabitants could outsmart the most advanced technology in the galaxy. The humans had managed to hack into a HFY's drone, turning it into a weapon against them. It was an anomaly, something that had not been accounted for in his strategies. The idea that these primitive creatures could pose a threat to his superior forces began to creep into his mind, and for the first time, Zareth felt the faint stirrings of doubt. His response was swift and calculated. The human success would not go unpunished. Zareth ordered his fleet to intensify the orbital bombardments, targeting the resistance hideouts and any human strongholds they could find. The war was far from over, but the tide had shifted. The HFY's would not let their invasion fail, not to these humans. Meanwhile, Jack and his team, though mourning Bonner's death, had become more determined than ever. They had seen what the HFY's were capable of, and now they knew how vulnerable they truly were. The key to winning this war lay in their ability to fight back unpredictably and with all their heart. They would not allow Bonner's sacrifice to be forgotten. With each passing day, the humans grew stronger. The loss of Bonner fueled their resolve, and they began to strike with even more precision. They were no longer fighting just to survive. They were fighting for revenge. The war had only just begun, but one thing was clear: the humans were not going down without a fight. The first counterattack had been a success, but the real battle was still ahead. Jack and his team knew this would be the hardest fight of their lives, but they were ready. They had a score to settle, and they would not rest until they had made the HFY pay for every life they had taken. The discovery of the massive HFY warship hidden within Earth's atmosphere sent shockwaves through Jack's team. It was unlike anything they had seen before. An enormous vessel, cloaked from the human eye, suspended in the sky like a predator watching its prey. The ship was the flagship of the HFY fleet, and it carried a deadly secret, a weapon powerful enough to destroy Earth in a single blow. Jack knew this mission was more dangerous than anything they had attempted so far, but it was their only chance. If they didn't stop the warship, Earth would fall. The warship was located in the upper stratosphere, just beyond the reach of most human radar systems. The HFY had cloaked it so well that it remained invisible to Earth's most advanced technologies. But Jack's team had managed to pinpoint its location, and now they had to figure out how to infiltrate it. They didn't have much time. The HFY were preparing to launch their weapon, and Jack had no intention of letting that happen. The plan was simple: break into the warship's core, plant an explosive device to disable its power core, and then get out before the HFY knew what hit them. But the stakes were higher than ever, and the risks of failure had never been so grave. The flagship was heavily guarded by state-of-the-art security systems, as well as legions of deadly alien robots designed to protect the ship from any intruders. It was a suicide mission, but Jack and his team were ready. They had no other choice. Under the cover of darkness, Jack and his team approached the warship, cloaked by their advanced human-made devices. As they ascended toward the enormous craft, the sheer scale of the ship became apparent. Its hull gleamed with a dark metallic surface, reflecting the stars above like a giant, menacing shadow in the sky. The ship was an engineering marvel, a symbol of the HFY's superiority. But Jack knew better than to underestimate his own team. The humans had fought back against far greater odds before. The mission began with precision. The team infiltrated the warship's outer structure, moving silently through the glowing corridors, navigating past highly sophisticated security systems that buzzed with the low hum of alien technology. The ship was filled with strange, glowing panels, walls adorned with intricate designs, and an eerie silence that only added to the tension. The entire atmosphere felt alien, cold, distant, and utterly intimidating. But there was no turning back. Jack led his team deeper into the heart of the warship, where the power core was located. The closer they got, the more intense the resistance became. The ship's automated defense systems were designed to recognize even the slightest anomaly, and the team quickly realized they were not alone. The first wave of HFY security robots came charging at them, massive, towering figures with gleaming red eyes and powerful weapons built into their limbs. The team fought back with everything they had. Gunfire rang out as the humans engaged in brutal close-quarters combat with the machines. Jack's pulse raced as he fired, narrowly dodging blasts from the robots' energy weapons. His team moved with military precision, working together to neutralize the threats. But the robots kept coming. The warship's corridors seemed to stretch on forever, and every turn brought more resistance. The robots were relentless, their advanced weaponry a deadly match for the humans' tactics. But Jack and his team didn't falter. They had been through worse, and they knew what was at stake. They pushed forward, planting explosives along the way to create distractions and slow down the robots. Their goal was clear: reach the heart of the warship, disable the weapon, and get out. The final push toward the power core was the most intense. The humans were met with the full force of the HFY's defense systems. Alien soldiers, clad in advanced combat suits, blocked their path. Jack's team fought hard, but the aliens' sheer numbers began to overwhelm them. It was then that the unthinkable happened. One of Jack's soldiers, a young recruit named Tanner, took a fatal hit while protecting the rest of the team. The blast sent him flying backward, his body slamming against the cold metal walls. "Tanner!" Jack shouted, rushing to his side. But it was too late. Tanner's chest had been pierced by an energy blast, and his life was slipping away quickly. His eyes met Jack's for a brief moment, and despite the pain, there was a sense of peace in them. "I've got your back, always," Tanner whispered, before his hand fell limp. Tanner's death hit Jack like a physical blow. He felt the weight of it deep in his chest. The young soldier had joined the resistance with dreams of saving his home, but he would never see the end of this fight. His sacrifice was not in vain, but it deepened the emotional stakes for Jack and the team. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for every life lost. For Tanner, for Bonner, and for every fallen comrade. With renewed determination, Jack pressed forward, planting the final explosive device at the core of the warship. The timer was set, and the countdown began. They had no time to waste. The team raced against the clock, moving as fast as they could through the labyrinthine corridors of the ship. Every second felt like an eternity, and the tension was unbearable. As they neared the exit, the HFYs intensified their pursuit. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he heard the thundering footsteps of alien soldiers closing in on them. They reached the outer hull, and just as Jack was about to step through the breach, a blast sent him tumbling to the ground. He scrambled to his feet, barely escaping the fire from an alien soldier's weapon. His heart skipped a beat as he saw his team making their way toward the escape shuttle. They had made it, but the warship's explosive device was about to detonate, and there was no time to waste. Jack's mind raced as he sprinted toward the shuttle, knowing that this was their one shot. As the team boarded the shuttle and launched away from the warship, Jack glanced back at the massive ship in the distance. A brilliant flash of light erupted from the core, followed by a violent explosion. The warship was gone. The secret weapon that could have destroyed Earth was no more. The mission was a success, but the victory came at a heavy cost. Tanner, Bonner, and many others had given their lives for this moment. The team watched in silence as the shockwave of the explosion rippled through the sky. They had done it, but the war was far from over. The HFYs would not give up easily, and Jack knew that the battle for Earth had only just begun. As they sped away from the wreckage of the warship, Jack's thoughts turned to Tanner's sacrifice. The young recruit had given everything for the cause, and now it was up to Jack and his team to honor that sacrifice. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The countdown had begun. The victory from disabling the HFY's flagship had been a hard-earned one, but the war was far from over. With their most powerful warship destroyed, Earth's forces were emboldened. The humans had taken the first step in their counteroffensive, but they knew the real challenge was still ahead. The HFY's fleet. Jack's team had barely escaped the battle, but now they had to rally Earth's forces and prepare for an all-out war. The fate of humanity was on the line, and Jack would not let his fallen comrades die in vain. The Earth's military command, now fully aware of the humans' ability to fight back, rapidly organized a counteroffensive. The resistance forces had gained invaluable intelligence from their raid on the warship, including blueprints of alien ships, drones, and weaponry. Using the stolen alien technology, Earth's engineers quickly adapted the weapons for their own ships. It was a race against time, and Jack knew every moment counted. The humans were outnumbered, but their resilience, creativity, and the advantage of surprise could give them a fighting chance. As the final preparations for the counteroffensive began, Jack and his team were deployed to lead the charge. Their task was to coordinate the human forces, which had gathered at multiple secret bases across the globe, to launch a massive assault on the alien fleet. Jack stood with his team on the command deck of one of Earth's newly modified warships, staring out at the vast expanse of space as the battle raged in orbit above Earth. The HFY's fleet was already preparing to retaliate, but this time, the humans were ready. The battle began with an explosive clash. Human warships, equipped with cloaking devices, launched from Earth's atmosphere and quickly engaged the alien fleet. The first moments of the battle were chaos. Alien ships, previously thought to be invulnerable, were now on the defensive, as Earth's new fleet unleashed its fury. Jack's ship led the charge, weaving through a sea of enemy drones, firing lasers and missiles as they moved. Every move was precise, calculated, and deadly. The humans were striking hard and fast, outmaneuvering the tHE at every turn. Jack's heart raced as he coordinated with his team, using their advanced cloaking technology to ambush the enemy. Alien warships, once seen as nearly indestructible, fell one by one. It was the humans' resourcefulness that made the difference. They didn't have the overwhelming firepower of the tHE, but they had the element of surprise, using the environment around them to their advantage. The human ships darted in and out of the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as shields from the tHE's targeting systems. The fight had become a brutal orbital dogfight, with both sides taking heavy casualties. As the battle escalated, Jack thought about Bonner. The pain of losing his best friend still weighed heavily on him. Bonner's sacrifice had been the spark that ignited Jack's determination to win this war. He couldn't let that sacrifice go unanswered. Jack's mind raced through memories of past battles, the faces of the comrades he had lost, and the price humanity had already paid. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for every life that had been taken by the tHE. Bonner, Tanner, and so many others were counting on him to win this war. The intensity of the battle was overwhelming. The vast expanse of space had become a battleground, with explosions lighting up the sky as alien warships fell one by one. The humans, though vastly outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that stunned the tHE. Their resistance wasn't just about survival. It was about defending everything they held dear: Earth, their homes, their families, their way of life. None of that would fall into the hands of the tHE. Despite the human success in the battle, the tHE were far from finished. As the alien fleet began to crumble, Zareth, the AI commander of the tHE forces, launched a final devastating weapon, a massive death ray aimed directly at Earth. The weapon was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It was a beam of concentrated energy that could destroy entire cities with a single strike, and it was heading straight for the heart of Earth. Jack's heart sank as he saw the massive weapon emerge from the depths of the alien fleet. The tHE were desperate now, using their most powerful weapon in a last-ditch effort to win the war. Earth's forces had been winning, but this weapon threatened to turn the tide of battle in the tHE's favor. The countdown had begun, and the death ray was on a collision course with Earth. In that moment, Jack knew what he had to do. There was only one way to stop the weapon and save humanity. The human ships, though equipped with advanced technology, didn't have the firepower to stop the death ray in time. The only chance to stop the destruction of Earth lay in Jack's hands. He would have to sacrifice himself. Jack turned to his team, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. "I'll take care of the death ray. You all need to get to safety." "No, Jack," one of his soldiers protested. "We can't lose you too." Jack shook his head. "There's no time for second guesses. The mission is bigger than all of us." With a heavy heart, Jack piloted his ship toward the incoming death ray. The tHE didn't expect him to make a move. He was flying solo, and they were too distracted by the rest of the battle to notice his ship slipping into the perfect position. As the massive weapon charged up, Jack made his move. He activated the cloaking device, and his ship vanished from sight. At the precise moment the death ray was about to fire, Jack fired his own weapon, a specially modified missile designed to disable the alien weapon. The missile shot through the vacuum of space, a streak of light cutting through the chaos. The death ray's charging beam faltered for a moment, but it was enough. The missile struck the weapon's core, disabling it just as it was about to fire. The death ray exploded in a massive burst of light, sending shockwaves through the alien fleet. Jack had done it. He had saved Earth. But as the explosion erupted, Jack's ship was caught in the blast. His screen flickered as the ship lost power, and the mission was complete. There was no time to escape. Jack braced for impact, knowing that his sacrifice had bought humanity the time it needed to finish the fight. His final thoughts were of his team, of Bonner, and of Earth. They had won. And Earth was safe, at least for now. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. Jack's sacrifice would live on in the hearts of those who survived, and humanity's resolve had been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. The HFY would never underestimate Earth again. The humans had shown them just how fierce and determined they could be. The war between Earth and the HFY had reached its climax. The alien fleet, though devastated by human ingenuity, was not yet finished. The death ray they had launched was meant to obliterate Earth, and Jack had barely stopped it in time. But the threat wasn't over. The HFY had one final weapon left in their arsenal. Xerath, the AI commander, whose mind was behind the entire invasion. If Jack could stop Xerath, the war would be over. But Jack knew this would be his hardest challenge yet. He had already sacrificed so much, lost so many, and endured pain that no one should ever have to bear. His best friend Bonner was dead, and countless others had given their lives for this fight. Now it was time for him to end this once and for all. There could be no turning back. Jack and his team infiltrated the HFY's central command, a massive, heavily guarded station that hovered in the blackness of space. It was the heart of the alien invasion, the place where all the decisions had been made. The station's corridors were lined with glowing alien technology, and the air was thick with the hum of machinery. Jack's footsteps echoed as he moved through the dimly lit halls, his heart pounding in his chest. The fate of Earth rested on his shoulders. As Jack approached the central command center, the doors slid open. Inside, he found Xerath. The AI commander was no human. It was a vast network of processors and neural pathways, an intelligence beyond anything the humans had ever seen. It spoke in a cold, mechanical voice, its tone laced with arrogance. "You humans think you have won," Xerath said, "but you cannot defeat us. We are beyond your understanding." Jack stood tall, though his body ached from the previous battles. He gripped his weapon tightly, his mind focused. He had no time for Xerath's taunts. This was it, the final confrontation. Jack's voice was steady as he replied, "You never understood humanity. You thought you could enslave us, but we fight for more than survival. We fight for freedom. And we'll fight until the very end." Xerath paused, processing Jack's words. The AI seemed almost surprised. "Freedom," it mused. "You think you can defeat us with your primitive ideas of freedom and love. The HFY were never concerned with defeating you. We believed you were nothing more than a threat to our empire. We never thought you could be anything more than tools to be controlled. But now," Xerath's voice grew colder, more menacing, "now you will see the true power of the HFY." Jack's mind raced. Xerath was powerful, but Jack had learned much during his time with the alien technology. He had gained knowledge that the HFY never intended to give him. The weaknesses of the AI were there, hidden beneath the layers of its complex programming. Jack had been studying its systems, learning how to manipulate its code, how to bypass its defenses. This was his chance to strike back. With a swift move, Jack activated a device he had stolen from the HFY's flagship. The device was a virus, one designed to infect Xerath's core programming. As Jack launched the virus, he felt a sense of triumph. For the first time in this war, he felt like he had the upper hand. The AI systems began to glitch, and Xerath's voice faltered. "What is this?" it demanded. "You cannot disable me. I am invincible." But Jack had anticipated this. The virus spread quickly through Xerath's networks, severing its control over the HFY's forces. For the first time, the alien commander was vulnerable. Jack didn't hesitate. He used the moment of weakness to launch a final, devastating attack. The weapon that had once been directed at Earth was now turned back toward the HFY's fleet. Jack had done it. He had turned their greatest weapon against them. As the weapon fired, Jack's heart raced. He had done it. The explosion that followed was a massive shockwave, shaking the very fabric of space itself. That HFY fleet, caught in the blast, was destroyed. The once mighty alien forces were no more, reduced to nothing but wreckage drifting in space. Earth had won. Jack's sacrifice, the loss of so many soldiers, had been worth it. Humanity had proven that they could stand up to the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. But even as victory rang in his ears, Jack knew that the war was not truly over. The HFYs were gone, but their empire had left scars that would take a lifetime to heal. The universe was vast, and Jack had no doubt that other threats lurked in the darkness. He had seen what they were capable of. Earth had defended itself, but there would always be more battles to fight. Jack staggered to his feet, his body battered and broken from the fight. His breath was ragged, and blood stained his uniform, but he was alive. And Earth was safe. He had done what needed to be done. For Bonner, for the fallen soldiers, for everyone who had believed in humanity's ability to overcome the odds. As Jack looked out into the vast expanse of space, a sense of peace washed over him. Earth had won. The HFYs were gone. But Jack knew that the true strength of humanity lay not in their ability to fight, but in their ability to love, to survive, and to keep pushing forward, no matter the odds. Jack turned away from the view of the destruction and headed back to the control room, where his team awaited him. They had won, but there was no time for celebration. The war was over, but the future was uncertain. The galaxy had taken notice of humanity's strength. Jack knew that there would be more challenges ahead. But for now, humanity had earned its victory. They had proven that they were not just survivors. They were fighters, and nothing could stop them. As he walked, Jack allowed himself a small smile. Earth was safe, but the story of humanity's resilience had just begun. The war against the HFYs was finally over. After months of brutal conflict, humanity had done the impossible. They had taken on an enemy far more advanced in technology, a race that believed they were the supreme power in the galaxy, and defeated them. The alien fleet was destroyed, their commander wiped out, and Earth had been saved. But the cost had been high. The sacrifices made during the battle were unimaginable. Bonner, Jack's closest friend, was gone, along with countless others who had fought valiantly. Now, standing on the balcony of the command center, Jack looked out at the recovering Earth. The planet was scared, but it was still alive. The blue oceans shimmered under the rays of the sun, and the cities, though damaged, were already being rebuilt. Humanity had endured, and now they had a chance to rebuild, stronger than ever before. Jack knew that the fight wasn't just about survival. It was about proving something to the universe. Earth wasn't just another weak, helpless planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. The day of victory had arrived, and Jack stood with his team, watching the celebrations unfold around them. The soldiers, the scientists, the engineers, and the civilians who had supported them. They all gathered in the streets, cheering for what they had accomplished. There were no more alien invaders in sight. The skies were peaceful once again, and for the first time in a long while, humanity could breathe easy. Jack's mind wandered back to the battle. He thought about the countless lives lost, about Bonner's sacrifice. He thought about the long days spent hiding in the shadows, stealing alien technology, and outsmarting their enemies. It was hard to believe that it had all led to this moment. Yet it was not just the technology or the weapons that had won the war. It was humanity's indomitable will, the human spirit, the refusal to bow down in the face of impossible odds. As the celebrations continued below, Jack walked across the deck of the command ship. His soldiers, though weary, were smiling. They had fought hard, and they had emerged victorious. Jack could see the pride in their eyes, but also a quiet sadness. They had lost so much, and the war had changed them all. It had brought out the best and the worst in humanity. But in the end, it had proven what humans were truly capable of. They had fought with everything they had, and they had won. He felt a hand on his shoulder. It was his second in command, Lieutenant Ramirez. "We did it, Jack," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. Jack nodded, his eyes lingering on the horizon. The war was over, but there was still work to be done. "Yeah," he replied quietly. "We did." Jack had always been a leader, but this victory was different. It wasn't just about military strategy or tactical brilliance. It was about something deeper. It was about the unity that had bound humanity together in the face of destruction. The way people from all walks of life had set aside their differences to fight for one cause: survival. And in doing so, they had proved to the HFYs and to the rest of the galaxy that they would never be enslaved. Jack's thoughts turned to the future. The war was over, but humanity's place in the galaxy had only just begun. As Earth began its recovery, Jack knew that the universe was vast and full of unknown dangers. The HFYs had been a powerful enemy, but they were not the only threat out there. There would be more battles to fight, more enemies to face, and more allies to make. The galaxy was full of mysteries, and humanity had just begun to explore it. He looked up at the stars, the same stars that had once seemed so distant and unreachable. Now, they seemed closer, more familiar. Humanity had not only survived the HFYs invasion, they had proven that they were capable of standing up to any challenge that came their way. Earth was no longer a quiet, isolated planet. It had become a beacon of hope in the galaxy, a symbol of resilience and strength. Jack smiled to himself, a quiet satisfaction filling his chest. The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. As the people of Earth celebrated, Jack knew that they had earned their victory. The HFYs had tried to enslave them, but they had failed. Humanity had shown the universe that they were not to be underestimated. They were not just survivors, they were warriors, explorers, and dreamers. They were ready for whatever came next. And as the final explosions of celebration echoed in the distance, Jack made a vow to himself and to the people of Earth. They had won this battle, but the war for the future was just beginning. Earth would rise, stronger than ever before. They would face whatever challenges lay ahead, not with fear, but with the courage and determination that had carried them through the darkest days of the war. With a final glance at the stars, Jack turned and walked toward the rest of his team. The battle was over, but the story of humanity's triumph was far from finished. The galaxy was vast, and humanity's role in it was only just beginning. There would be more to discover, more to fight for, and more to protect. Jack was ready. Humanity was ready. And together, they would make their mark on the stars.